whip up an egg really nice and whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it with a tablespoon of water. In another bowl, you mix Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs.
I grew up with a mother who would always say, "We can make that." And my siblings and I would always say, "Oh, Mom, why can't we buy it?" And it turns out that I turned into my mother in so many ways. Thank goodness. So when I look at our simple and sweet Christmas tree and realize that from year to year, we never have the same tree topper, if one at all. So I challenged myself the Sunday before Christmas to make one and get it on the tree before Christmas morning. I started with a simple idea and a sketch. A wind-blown snow angel with a star as wings and a full heart. So I'm going to have to work fast and thin so the clay dries quickly. My go-to clay, Amico White 25. It's smooth, cooperative, and forgiving of my inexperience with ceramics. So I rolled out a thin layer and then crafted a paper cone out of heavy cardstock. So the paper will help me drape my snow angel's cape and absorb moisture while allowing the clay to shrink during the drying process without resistance. And that way I can avoid having to repair cracks. A cookie cutter helps me with the wings, and silicone molds help me with the fine details I don't have the skill to craft. I can hear my husband blowing snow outside, and so I get the idea that snowflakes would be great for buttons on the cape. I use slip to create her hair, and while I love crafting faces, I'm on a tight schedule, and so I go for the easy, a face that's a heart. I use an extruder to create the angel hair detail on the back of her wings because I want them to have some depth, and then I prop her up and let her air dry overnight. My snow angel is drying nicely. I remove my paper cone and start 24 hours of force drying by blasting her with fans. If I put her in the kiln with any moisture in the clay, she could explode, and no one wants an exploding angel coming up their kiln. Tuesday. Oh my gosh. She's not as dry as I want her to be. She sounds dry, but she hasn't turned into that hard, crusty white that indicates she's ready for the kiln. And so I pull out the heated lunchbox that I use as a drying chamber, and I tuck her in for 5 more hours of heat drying. By noon, I'm satisfied that if I do a slow cone 05 bisking, I can safely chase away any remaining water molecules. And so I load her up. The first firing, or the bisque firing, is always terrifying to me. By Wednesday, the first firing is done, and she has survived. She's not as fragile now, and I can move a little faster. Quick damp sponge bath to wipe off residue, and she's ready to be glazed. I'm going to dip her. It's faster, and I want the glaze in all of those nooks and crannies. I want it to be simple but elegant. I sift through my various glazes to find a good color. Again, I want her simple because I'm on a deadline, but I don't want her to be completely plain. This looks good. Duncan Heather, Cone 06. I like that light lavender hue, which is one of my favorite colors, and I know it's going to break white on the edges, especially the hair. I also want a little bling, and so I decide to accent the bottom of the cape with Spectrum Moonlight, Cone 05. I've never had a bad experience with this glaze. For the heart, simple. Mako Stroke and Coat. Color, wine about it. I think it'll stand out and it'll still be elegant without being too hokey. Unfortunately, though, I forgot to do the wax resist, so I'd have a clean deposit of color. Not sure how this is going to come out. I'm just going to paint it and go. By evening, she's back in the kiln. cone 06 firing, the glaze setting. Even though I know I have a cone 05 in there, I'm going to glaze to the lower temperature. 9 hours later, and I open the kiln. Once she cools off, I sign her. And I put her on her brand new throne of pine cones and pine needles. This year, we have a tree topper.